What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Apartment 113 podcast, where we're going to talk with cool folks in the cannabis and psychedelics industry to learn about their projects and celebrate their successes. My name is Rob Sanchez, and man, is it good to finally get this show rolling. Today, for episode 1, we're joined by Munir Haque, the VP of Cure8 Cannabis IT Services. Cure8 offers IT solutions and security to launch and scale cannabis businesses in the US and Canada. Find out more online at cure8.tech and enjoy this conversation. Munir, thanks for joining us today, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me, Rob.
Definitely, I think it'll be an interesting conversation as the two of us have worked in the similar industry, but kind of from some different angles.
Yeah, we're ancient in the cannabis space.
Yeah, you don't have to be very old to be ancient in cannabis, huh?
Yeah.
How did Cure8 get started? Or did it come from, I think I saw it started with another company first, Geek
Yeah,
Tech?
so we've been an IT company, so our parent company Base 8 for like 16 plus years in the traditional space, so like food manufacturing, private universities, medical offices, things of that sort. And then I'd say about 7 years ago or so, our CEO Eric was preaching the importance of data security, compliance, being secure, a proper network in the cannabis space. And yeah, I mean, long story short, so Cure8 came out of that, which was cannabis specific.
Right, so you were doing security for any business before that, or any type
Yeah,
of business?
yeah, like your traditional, like, high-end retail and, food manufacturing facilities and whatnot, and bringing in a secure network, making sure data is secure, things run, different type of point of sale, but similar features.
Right, same level of security needed. So really, um, are you integrating with camera systems as well as
Yeah,
networks and
yes. So we can do quite a lot. I like to kind of get the feel for the client and their vision, right? So say if you're talking retail, right? You can get really creative with data. So having the ability to, one, keep you secure and safe, also keep you compliant with the municipalities and the, states and cities and whatnot. But to dive deeper, if you want more, like, do you want your camera systems to integrate with the point of sale? Do you want to pull data that'll help your business know your traffic flow, how your clients move through the space? Do you have your high ticket items on the left side and everyone goes right? Things of that sort. Also keeping internal theft down and really keeping that kind of locked in. So we have the ability to have a lot of fun with the tech that we put in there.
right? Yeah, it's definitely the eye in the sky, right? The
Yeah.
Cure8 eye in the sky.
Yeah, like that.
And as far as daily security measures like internal theft or just premise security and inventory, I think being able to use that data for potential analytics or BI decisions sounds awesome. Being able to look and see, are folks turning the wrong direction, or are they spending too much time per transaction, or things like
Yeah,
that.
100%. And me personally, I come from a long line of retail background and managing multiple locations and what have you. But so I remember the days of having the inkling that, oh, my this assistant might be putting some stuff in his pocket or whatnot, and then based on that inkling, having to sit there and watch days and hours of footage and fast forward and be like, oh, I thought I saw something. But having smart systems where you can potentially indicate movement of a certain SKU or product and just hone in on that moment and watch those moments. You know,
Right, right.
I'm
So
not
if
I'm
the
not the
problem,
LP guy. I'll give that footage, to the owners. They can do what they want with it.
but making it possible,
Yeah.
right? Giving them the ability to look into that, or figure out who's really buying all these concentrates every day or those kinds of
100%.
things. Definitely a lot to be done there. And are there any regions that you're focusing on across the states, or are you guys in Canada yet?
Yeah, actually, that's Canada is a great story. That's how we started. When I said we started speaking about data security and the importance of having a secure network, and at that time you were really only looking at like California and Colorado in the States, right? Canada, right before legalization, reached out, and we opened up an office out there, started a Canadian entity, hired a staff, and we built out the first fleet of stores in Manitoba right before legalization.
Oh wow. Okay, so that very ancient in the cannabis world, even
Yeah,
starting there before Canada's federalization, huh?
yeah. So, being there for the first transaction, celebrating that, was a really good experience. And then we expanded into other provinces and expanded beyond retail into cultivation.
I see. That was going to be the next question there. Is it so it's not only retail, it's any cannabis business,
Yeah,
cultivation, distribution, manufacturing.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Distribution, manufacturing, cultivation, down to retail.
Excellent. I know there's always a need for the surveillance side on that front too, with things falling out the back door or rotating employees in some of these massive facilities.
Totally. And so surveillance is like the compliance side of the security, and then you have access control and your intrusion. And then we also do the security on the network side, right? So we that's how we got started. That
Keeping the
was,
business data safe. And
yes, keeping the business data safe, making sure uptime is, like they're always up, always transacting, always functioning, items are working, and they're secured.
right. So let's say I have a new dispensary that's rolling out. I've selected my point of sale software.
Mhm.
Is that when Cure8 would come into the picture to help me with the facility, or would you prefer to have it even before that selection to grab one of your integrators?
Good question. So we can come in at any time. So we recently have been coming in way early. We've been helping with the application writing, the security IT aspect of it, and then doing the markups. We have a couple sister companies that help with the standard operating procedures and help with the security writing. So after that, Cure8 hops in. So when I get my hands on a fresh floor plan, that's the best part. To meet with the client, talk about what their flow is, how they envision the space, and talk about everything. Like I want to know how they want to utilize tech. So
That's
from a
really the Christmas morning kind of conversation.
yeah, and kind of trying to figure out like, okay, these are the must-haves, these are the nice-to-haves, right? Also, you know, talking to a new business owner who's getting into space for the first time and maybe phasing it out. Like, they'll say things like, I want like 4 kiosks and, like 7 menu boards and things of that sort. Well, depending on where you are, maybe that is great. Maybe we should totally do that. Or maybe we should phase that out. Come in a little bit
So
more.
kind of right, kind of putting their feet back on the ground.
Yeah,
The way that the business owners can get a little excited about their industry, or any entrepreneur does about like the new thing.
yeah,
It's I can especially see with security, that'd be like as soon as you're in the door, man, I'd be want video surveillance or monitors on the walls, trying to set the sky as the limit. And then it's good to hear that. I can understand from a product management perspective too. It's always really good to hear what the user wants.
yeah,
But we learn that those wants are not always the needs, especially across the board. From one operation to the next.
yeah.
Have you found
100%.
blanket solutions or Does the technology that Cure8 provides relay well into many different businesses, or are there different configurations for the business type or for the needs that the dispensary would want?
Good question. Configuration, yes. Compliance of the data and what type of data, PCI compliance. Dispensaries, some dispensaries will have, an ATM machine or, cash transaction. So depending on the needs of the space and what type of businesses, we will curate the way we configure the network.
Right. That is slick. We'll definitely have to talk here someday about some dispensary plans in the future.
Oh yeah, I'd love to, man.
I know that basically when I got started in the cultivation scene in about 2011 in Denver, I had left Kansas City in the Midwest and just always wanted to go back for the cannabis industry. And just this week, Missouri started rec sales. So the Midwest is slowly learning from their coastal brethren.
I am stoked about Missouri, and we should talk about that. When you have some time, because we are entering Missouri and looking to make some waves.
Great. Yeah, definitely. When it comes to all these new states or new markets, as a business outside of cannabis, they can look at the states and say, we want to offer this service. And it's just so blanketed, it's almost easy mode. And then you add cannabis and there's all these regulations and all this litigation in every different state, which makes it a good market for different services to help with that kind of thing. But how do those different state laws help you guys in targeting different states? Or are you really looking at the whole cannabis industry and willing to jump in where those customers are found?
So yes, we will jump in where the customers are, where the clients are, but it does differ because we need to be on top of all the regulations. And as regulations change, Mississippi, for instance, security footage, cameras, you're looking at, 120 days retention, 1080p, right? You're looking at a lot of terabytes that, you have to account for, versus, other states that are at 720p, you're at 30 days retention, and things of that sort. So it does size up the network, depending on
Kind of
you
where
are.
you are, right?
Yeah, but things
But
change too. I remember being on a call with a client on Friday of, I don't know, back in like last February, New Mexico, right? We're looking at building out their facility, and I think they were at like 60 days retention at I forgot how many frames per second. And I'm having that call with them Monday and going over it. As I'm speaking to them, new regulations come out, and it was like half that. So I was like, wait, what's happening? It was one of those things where I was like, did I just, am I
did you
wrong?
dream that conversation?
Yeah.
You've
So,
been consuming a little too much here
right?
in the meantime.
Yeah.
And then for listeners that may not be aware of kind of the nuances of cannabis security, in talking about the retention rates and things like that, it's the dispensaries and all cannabis businesses are definitely on high surveillance at all times, right? And it's going to be the state that would require those different retention periods or being able to look back different periods of time. Are there any states that are like the most litigious that you guys have to deal with, or maybe one that's an example of a very easy one to work with at this point?
I would say New Mexico has become a real easy state. Massachusetts isn't that bad either. You
So
know,
some of them are kind of learning. Maybe the newer states are getting better.
yeah. I always say, I joke with my team, like I'd love to sit in the room when these decisions are being made. You know?
Yeah, right. Do they have a cannabis guy on the team? Like, is there
Yeah,
someone from the scene when these decisions are made?
yeah. It's similar to we have a lot of fun here, because I love this space, man, because everyone that's in the cannabis space, we're always reinventing ourselves. We're always looking at new ways to do things. So same in the office, we all kind of meet out in the middle room and just kind of chat. So, that's where I always say like, oh, I wish I was in that meeting. Like I want to be a fly on the wall.
Right, getting to contribute to some of these headaches that we're all dealing with now. I know on the compliance side for Metric, for example, there are decisions in how Metric is tracking cultivation that don't really correlate well with actual cultivation. There are like weird things like that with, plant count being the limit in cultivation, when any cultivator knows that if you're given only 50 plants to grow, you can grow some monster plants. You can just grow them huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's all kinds of nuances there in the litigation. I mean, happy to see that it's rolled out and that, change is as rapid as you were saying. I think with folks working in the industry, trying to be innovative, the lawmakers and folks on the regulation side are, trying to harness that as best they can, for being on that political side.
I think so. I think in a short period of time, we've definitely witnessed a lot of history being made. Sometimes it does feel like we're taking one step forward, three steps backwards kind of thing, and you're just like, what's happening here? Why shouldn't it be this hard?
Right. It feels kind of wandering, but in hindsight, you look back at the path we've been on and it's like, okay, there was direction this
Yeah. And it's crazy to think about, like, even for you, for myself, for our teams, like, this is something we can talk about like 20 years from now, even, or like 10 years from now, like being able to have witnessed all this, all the travel we've done and all the different markets we've been in.
Right. Yeah.
Real cool story.
Good. Always fun traveling around with some of the business expos that are popping up too. That's where you and I first met. I think it was maybe Detroit or Albuquerque, and then there was a few along the way up until Vegas. Seems like there's a circuit that some of the cannabis businesses make to keep their services fresh and keep their ear to the ground for the markets and things like that.
Yeah.
Is Cure8 doing another tour of conferences this year and for 2023?
We are, and we're also kind of doing some other stuff, outside of the tour, some education events. But we will hit some of the markets, Missouri being one of them.
Yeah, and that's great. I know that they have Lucky Leaf coming up here at the end of March. I'll be speaking at a session there on Saturday morning.
Oh,
so
awesome.
You can see who else turns up for that one.
But that's your hometown? Is that where you're from?
Yes. Yeah, man. I grew up in Olathe, Kansas. Okay. It's on the Kansas side of the city, out in the suburbs there. But the city is near and dear. I'm hoping that the Chiefs don't fall on their face in this Super Bowl on the way there. But a little back to kind of what you were mentioning before about it just being so fast of an industry, or kind of being so new. I think it's we even forget that now, being just like 8 years, 10 years into it. When I started cultivating professionally after a few failed home grows, I was living in Denver, working in a 5,000 square foot grow in like 2011 and 12 there. I had many people in my family utterly disappointed with my life choices. They could not see the value or the reasoning for the decisions. And then now to see how the market's become, it's ridiculous to look back actually and say, like, not necessarily that I was right, but at least that like we were onto something, or like the industry was on the right path, even though it was early. Yeah. I think that it's changed so much, because I never would have thought I would work for companies creating cannabis software, or talking to people creating security for cannabis businesses. Where when I grew up in high school, I mean, security for your cannabis business was like a pit bull. Or some friends. It's like the industry's changed so much as the products kind of come off the streets into the mainstream and kind of into the common vernacular.
100%, and it's I find it fascinating when I go into dispensaries, because I really like to kind of take a step back and see what type of atmosphere they're creating because they have a passion for the plant, right? They have a passion for the product and they want to get it out there. So how they display it, and some dispensaries are very like hands-on, right? I guess it's also market specific and like what you can and can't do, but like really being able to touch and smell. Some are very into the conversation of like, how do you feel? Back in the day, like we didn't talk about any of that, right? We just like it's like, hey, this is some really good stuff. Like,
Yeah, some
yeah,
fire weed coming from out of state. You'll
yeah,
like it.
yeah. And you passed it around in your networks and your social groups, and they jumped other groups, and kind of went viral that way. Um, but
And even
I
early legal industry, I guess, was dominated by just, or still is kind of in like high THC,
yeah,
certain strains, like purples cultivars can like attract more attention,
yeah,
not really for the right reasons. But yeah, some of that stuff has been the kind of trends of the industry that are already evolving in some more mature states. For example, like in Nevada, we're starting to tackle the THC problem, the issue with everybody wanting high THC.
yeah,
And it's almost a happy accident. And it's coming from this high testing or high bar for testing results
hmm,
in the city that require top 3 terpenes to be printed on the label. And the terpenes are printed in milligrams per gram. It could be like myrcene, 10 milligrams per gram, terpinolene, 5 milligrams. So what you can do is just ignore all the cultivar names, ignore all the THC percentage, and just look at that terpene count. And you really can find some quality flower just off the numbers.
yeah,
I hope the market can move to that in the long term a little bit, but I think similar to other vice kind of industries like beer and wine and things like that, there's like a mass market that needs to be addressed before like a craft or a connoisseur market can really rear its head.
yeah. You kind of have to have a base, right? A foundation of the general, popular brands or whatnot, and then I mean, it's the word craft, right? To create something out of that.
Yeah, yeah. Even though many businesses, I mean, and there are businesses creating quality cannabis now,
Yeah,
but there are also businesses creating um, mids,
yeah,
uh, so
yeah,
quality. And finding the profit in a cannabis business is difficult all around. So you can't necessarily judge based on the quality, but you can appreciate quality when it's found. And I think because of some of the test requirements, at least the general market here in Vegas, probably due to tourism as well, is pretty great in the
yeah,
quality side.
yeah,
But the cost for that quality is not always ideal
yeah,
compared to California, Colorado, some of these other locations.
yeah. I agree there.
When it comes to cannabis consumption on your side, Munir, is there a product that you prefer or consumption method that you lean towards?
Yeah. So it's like a bigger conversation too. Also, like where I am, like in my life. So I recently, so cannabis for me is a personal uh, moment. You know,
I think
once in a
that's a good way to
while.
put it. Yeah.
Yeah, once in a while it would be, I'll bring it out into like a social setting, like a small one, but it's more for myself. And I'm a night owl, and at night my brain is like on, so um, that's like the moment where I like to consume. And also recently I have a little boy now, right? So
Hey,
I need to be a
congrats
little
there.
bit. Thanks. I need to be a little more, kind of in a different mindset there, in the middle of the night. But with that said, um, recently, uh, wild gummies, specifically the sativa strain, um, helps me kind of shut off 100 thoughts and focus on one, and just kind of be in this zone that I love, and I can focus and be really productive at night while I'm like in my own world.
Right. It gives you that kind of that a little bit of focus or edge to dive onto one of those thought tracks instead of be sort of overwhelmed by all of them, huh?
Yeah. So, so I recently, over the last year or so, just been more kind of experimenting with edibles.
Yeah, definitely. I typically I like to consume concentrates. I'm a fairly regular smoker, consumer, but I do like to push it off later into the day.
Yeah.
And I've been experimenting with this thing called the desensitization protocol, and it's this idea that basically we're all over consuming. And to be a cannabis podcast and tell everybody that, I'm sorry to break it to you. But the idea is that you go sober for 2 days.
Hmm.
Then you take 2 to 3 days where you just find the bare minimum dose. Like, what's the smallest piece of that edible that you can eat to still get that little degree of focus? And then trying to, like, level set your consumption. Because I have a tendency that I know many may have the same tendencies. You find that tolerance,
Yeah.
and you have 20 milligrams in the night, and then you have 40 next week.
Yeah.
And then, every once in a while you drop in 60, I don't know. Everyone's edibles tolerance is much different as well. But I think that finding that balance, and especially recognizing kind of where you are in your own like home life and personal development, is important.
Yeah.
Got it.
I love though how, everyone has their, whether it's overconsumption or, the right calculated amount, has this place they can go to, or this product, which is why we're meeting today, right? Like it like helps you get there. I mean, it helps so many things, but
Right. There's all kinds of help we're skipping over in this generalization from a medical perspective.
Yeah.
But I mean, just from the well-being or
Yeah.
happiness kind of level.
yeah, our mental state, and it's so, I don't know, it's so important, on another level, because it plays so much into who you are in your life, or it can, if you haven't given it the opportunity. But my one of my best friends yesterday in the morning, she was talking about who partakes in the plant, talks about how much effort it takes for you by yourself in your mind to keep you just okay all day, right? And having a support system, like really good friends that have your back and can contribute to positive vibes, and then having the ability to add um, marijuana to that, to also help. It's just such a, I don't know, it's a really good thing.
Right. To be able to kind of live virtuously or live as you intended
Yeah.
is very difficult, right? You set your plan for the week or for the day,
Yeah.
even for an hour sometimes, and end up finding other things to do. So if having anything to help on that path, I can see that for sure, and I'm very appreciative to cannabis and for what it's done in my life. Early in high school, when everyone kind of started drinking, I was that other kid that just started finding the cannabis instead, and I had seen some kind of negative repercussions of alcoholism and things like that at a closer level that sort of pushed me away from that kind of party scene,
Yeah.
for lack of better words, into the more introspective cannabis world, where I think I tried probably too much the first few times I consumed, and had those introverted moments in your head, where you're trying to work out that fine space, that happy space.
Yeah.
And
But
yeah,
you
I
almost
think
need that, right? Because you need to know boundaries with everything, right? And like, okay,
that's a good point.
yeah, I don't want to go there, so let me go somewhere else, right?
Yeah, and kind of what you mentioned about in-home maybe consumption versus more public or
Yeah.
like networking and social events. I'm strangely comfortable with both, but to be honest, in hindsight, if I am not consuming, I think that it's more beneficial experience for me and other people I'm with, because it does feel like if I consume, it's more just I'm in chill mode now.
Yeah.
And I'm maybe not using the party or the networking experience to my advantage. I'm just hanging out,
Yeah.
puffing on a joint.
which is not a bad thing either, you know.
No, it's still a good place to be.
Yeah,
Depends what the goals are.
yeah, 100%.
What kind of goals does Cure8 have for 2023? Are there anything that you're really excited about for the quarter or for the year that are going to be milestones for you guys or that you can share today?
Yeah. So Q4 we entered Mississippi, and we're starting to see the fruit from that this week. Actually, shops are opening up, and we're looking at really contributing to that market right now. Along with that, the continued growth of New Mexico, I can see that that's going to play out really nice this year and being able to help that market. And outside of that, personally, right now, Missouri has got me really amped up. So, you know, setting the company up for success there is one of our focuses.
Right, big things around the corner there. There's plenty of licenses and businesses to work with in New Mexico, as there are so many licenses in the state.
Yeah.
And then Missouri is planning to open several application windows in the next few years. I think there's 3 periods planned, so that's going to be just a growing market for sure.
Yeah.
And how long have those poor Midwesterners been driving over to Colorado?
Yeah. Oh man, too long, right?
Yeah, just let them cut out that 12-hour drive
Yeah.
and pay some more city taxes for it.
Yeah.
No, that's excellent, man. I'm looking forward to see what Cure8 can do, and how technology evolves in cannabis. Are there any trends in the technology space or the surveillance security space that haven't been capitalized in the cannabis industry, or maybe that are still being worked out but that could be useful for cannabis down the road?
I think the data part of it. So there's two sides, right? The the network and the infrastructure and properly securing a space. I think there's a lot more avenues we can go down. Just by educating the clients and the people in the space, and then there's so much data just kind of in the ether, right? From all the different companies that, say, a facility will bring in, right? All those companies and all those like platforms have data that comes with it or data that can be utilized. So really looking at your business and kind of utilizing that data and being smart business owners, or helping you, forecast whatnot. I think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, right. It's like the first hurdle was just being able to gather all this data. Like,
Yeah.
let's just get it.
Yeah.
And now I think we really are turning the corner where it's like, now that we have that, what can we learn or what can we do? Where can the machine learning come in, or the algorithms to help
Yeah.
make decisions based on the data?
Yeah.
In product management, when people set up things to measure, there's something called a vanity metric, which is like you're measuring it just because like you like to measure things, like, how many clicks here, like, okay, great, but is that going to get us any information?
Yeah.
Like, what can you decide off of that?
Yeah.
And I think that's where business data and surveillance security data has so much to potentially give, right? A Pandora's box
Yeah.
of options. There's a book I just finished reading, and it's called Markets with Memory.
Okay.
By Nima Visea. I don't know if I said his last name right there, but it's the world's first data science book on the hemp and cannabis industry.
Oh wow.
And he just goes into such detail about how the industry's a new one, and that we don't know quite all of the gray areas that we need to measure and track, but that because it has like an agricultural background or it has similarities to normal retail, that data is available. And he talks about reducing the cycle. So collect the data, look at how to make a decision, collect more data, make the next decision. And sometimes I think for businesses, they get in this phase where they're just building that pool,
Yeah.
just throwing it into the lake of information.
Yeah. And
So-
not creating a trend.
Yeah, right. That's where maybe a company like Cure8 can fish out the business insights, right? Some of those things can be really helpful.
Yeah, and allowing all that data to exist, right? So, we build this network, and everything that you put into your space lives on the network that we build. You know, you bring in a smart TV, you bring in your Sonos speakers, your time clock machines, whatever it is, you know. But then also at the very end, making sure that it's secured. You know, you look at some of these hacks, right? Like some big box companies, you know, putting things on their network that just weren't secured or, you know, properly installed.
Right, right. And there's more moving pieces than you would think initially from a technology perspective, right?
Yeah.
With menus and scanners and door locks and cameras and everything else,
Yeah. Yeah.
or needing to bring even the speakers on, right? You never know, and there could be an Alexa issue or something going on.
Right. So
No,
always
that's
listening.
right. I probably triggered mine just saying that she's going
Yeah.
to order something for me. But awesome, Munir. Where can folks find out more about you and Cure8?
So, just my first last name, Munir Haque on LinkedIn, and Cure8 LinkedIn account. We're always posting what's going on in the industry, you know, what's new, the latest news, and Cure8.tech, our website. I can be found on any one of those platforms.
Hey, awesome, man. Yeah, just wanted to thank you again for
Yeah.
stopping by the show today and having a good little conversation here. I'm sure we'll have some more talks down the road.
100%.
Yeah. Thanks, Munir. Thank you for listening to Apartment 113 podcast. For more information about the show and our range of services, visit apt113.com. We offer certified Ganjier reviews, content writing, cannabis software and operations consulting, bud tender training, and more. With over a decade of experience in the cannabis industry, Apartment 113 is here to help.